Welcome to this tutorial in Unity where we're going to look at how to do stuff from script, from code, such as how do we instantiate or create things in the scene. How do we then, I'm just going to start this timer down here. I just want this to be about 7 minutes. Okay, we've started. Right, also it's exciting against the clock. So how to create things in a scene, maybe change the colors of stuff. What else can we do? I've got some notes. Here are some notes. What do I do? Add components, get hold of components, talk from one script to another script, things like that. So let's get going. So I've got this basic scene. I've got a little fellow that I can hover around with, and I've got a terrain and over there a directional light. So if you're following along, that's all you need in your scene. I have got, a camera, directional light, me, that was my little flying vehicle thing, and some terrain, so a very basic scene. So firstly, what if we wanted to create some stuff in the scene, so make an object appear? So in your assets folder, let's go to create and create our first script, and we'll call this, I don't know, grow babes. We're going to grow some babies, some babes. Notice I've, what they call it in the industry, camel humped this name. That means when you begin a new word in the phrase, start it with a capital letter so that you don't have separate words with spaces in between for a script name. Your script should be just one name together. Maybe you could use underscores and things, but don't leave any spaces. It might cause some problems later on. Right, we need something to attach that script to before we do the coding, because if we did some coding and then press play, the script wouldn't be involved. So we could attach it to the camera, anything that's kind of static. What might be better practice is to create a dedicated object to attach it to. So let's just create an empty. That's what an empty object is for in Unity. So here he is. I can move him around. It doesn't really matter because it's only got a transform, so a position, rotation, scale. There's no renderer, no collider, no mesh filter, no mesh on it. It's just like a ghost behind the scenes that we can attach script to. Let's do that before I forget. So I can just drag the script there. There he is. I think you can also add component, go to scripts. There we go. And yeah, grow babes is there. Notice that, this is a little thing I was talking about. I didn't leave a space in the name there, but because I've used that convention of camel humping, that means it's like, sounds a bit rude, but used a capital letter for a new word in the phrase. Unity understands that convention and then just nicely, it's just a nice little thing. It creates separate words. I'm using a lot of my time just talking about incidental things. Anyway, so you could have the script that way. So we've got our script attached. Let's open up the script by double clicking. And I'm using VS Code at the minute, really good. Right, and I've got it nice and zoomed in so you can see the code. Right, we don't need the update function, so that's gone. We're just going to do things from start. So how do we make something appear? We could use two functions to do this. The first one I'm going to use is create primitive. So a primitive is one of those simple primitive, one of those simple shapes that you see in Unity, like a cube or a capsule or something like that. Now notice it's coming up with red. I've forgotten to refer to the GameObject class to open up that function. So there we go. Create primitive, GameObject create primitive, and then I want a, let's say a cube, so I can use primitive type. I'm going to put this on a new line just because my font is so big, and to keep everything in space, in the screen. Primitive type, and I could have a capsule, a cube, a cylinder, plane. Let's just go for a cube. No! Let's go for a capsule. I never use capsules. I like saying capsules. There he is. Right. Save the script so that the script will take on board, or rather Unity's editor will take on board that new functionality. While we're here, let's give the game object a name so we know what on earth it is. So this is the spawner. I'll call it a spawner. I don't like that name, spawner. It sounds like a frog or something. So that's going to spawn a capsule. So let's play the scene now. And can we see our capsule? So our capsule hasn't appeared. What's gone wrong? Where is he or she? Let's pause the game. Well, simulation. Well, we have got a capsule in our scene. If I double click on it, there he is. He's at 0, 0, 0. So the first thing to take account of is that our code is working, but when we use create primitive, it makes sense. It's just going to position it in a very neutral place, 0, 0, 0. And presumably its scale is going to be 1, 1, 1, 1 unity unit. And rotation is going to be what they call the identity. That just means 0, 0, 0 in X, Y, and Z. So if we want to change its position, we need to get hold of this object, but it's hard because we've just created it and we haven't got a handle on it. So we could store it in a variable. So we want a new variable, GameObject, because it's of type GameObject. This function, create primitive, returns a GameObject in the code. So GameObject, we'll call it baby equals this, and it doesn't matter in coding generally, in programming generally, if you leave white space. The computer ignores that. It's just for human beings. So there we go. This time we're going to store that stuff in baby. That means we can get hold of baby, which is our new capsule. And if I put dot, it opens up its components. So I want to get hold of its transform because that's where its position is kept. And I want it to be something else. Now, if we go to the editor and have a look at just a random object, well, I've clicked the spawner. Notice the position variable on the transform takes 3 ingredients, 3 components. So the position is a vector 3. So you can't assign those individually. I won't go into why, but to assign all of them together, that's fine. If we write, oh, that's a horrible sound. I don't know if you could hear that. So that's 7 minutes. We've got to at least do this. We can say vector 3, and then let's say we want it in front of our player. I can't remember where that is. Let's go and have a look. Where does our player spawn? 22 meters in the air. Okay, so 0 on the x-axis, 22 meters in the air, so on the y-axis, and then 0 on the z-axis. Actually, that would make it appear exactly where the player is. We want to be a little forward, so maybe we'll put us, I don't know, 7 meters on the z-axis in the positive direction, so ahead of us. Let's have a look at that. I put an F after each of those numbers, by the way, because in the vector 3 it deals with floating point numbers, so not doubles, and there might be a problem if you leave it without an F. So if you're ever a lot of numbers you're dealing with in Unity are going to be floating points. Right, so our capsule has now appeared where we want it to. Let's do something more interesting. We want it to fall down, have a rigid body, be influenced by gravity, and also be a different. We need it pink. What's the point in having an object if it's not pink? So let's do those 2 things. I'm going to set myself up with a new timer. Why is my timer blank? How do I add timer? 7 more minutes. Okay, and we're orange this time. So, no longer than 7 more minutes. Right. So we can get hold of baby again. Let's change the color first. So we need to get hold of the mesh renderer. So to do that, we write get component. Right, you might be thinking, why didn't I just write mesh renderer like we've written transform? That's because every game object, even an empty game object like we used before to create our spawner, will have a transform. So Unity has got inbuilt reference, if you like, easy reference to the transform. It doesn't have easy reference to components that you've chosen to add on to objects. So to get hold of the mesh renderer, we have to write get component and then mesh renderer, and we put it in these triangles. I don't know the real name for them. Please put down in the comments if you know what the real name is. Triangle-y things, or arrows. We call it arrows, something like that. We use those, and they're in C#. It's usually around something that is a type. So a mesh renderer is a type of component, like a transform or a rigid body or a collider. These are all component types. So those triangles go around that. So we've got hold of the mesh renderer. And now we want to get hold of the material. So I'm going to put dot. I'm just going to go on a different line, only because so that you can see the code still. You don't have to go onto another line. Material. And then I don't want to change the material, I just want to change the color. It's the default material at the moment. And then I want to refer to the color. American spelling, no U in it. Equals, and then I want a new color, just like I did with a new vector. So to get a new color, we write this, and then like a vector actually, the color type is going to take 3 ingredients. It's going to take a red ingredient, green, and then blue. And the maximum for each of those values is going to be 1, the minimum 0. So halfway between 0.5, you could put 0.00032, be quite precise. So I want pink, so I want lots of red. Again, it's a floating point, so the F is there. I want no green, and I want 0.7 blue. Hopefully that'll be a nice pink. And then while we're in the code, let's be a little naughty. Let's add something else. Oh, can I? No, it's going to get some more room. Okay, I'll keep the same size font. Then we want to give it a rigid body. So how do you add a component? At the moment, our capsule, it will have a transform and it'll have a mesh renderer. It'll even have a collider by default when you create a primitive. Unity will give your primitive all of those things, but it won't give it a mesh render. It won't give it a rigid body. So I'm going to get a hold of baby. That's the newly created primitive. Baby will just be the new primitive. And we're going to use add component. It's as easy as that. And then just like get component, you prescribe what component you want to add. So this time I want a rigid body. Notice that it's got to be a capital R, a little b. These have to be written precisely. I'll try and get away with it. See what happens. And then the brackets after the unnameable Voldemort triangle things, and then a semicolon. I've saved the script. Can I run it? No, because rigid body is misnamed. You need to, usually component types will have a capital to start them. So I've saved the script. This time, let's see if I can play. It's still just compiling. How's my time? Got 2 minutes. Do I want to do anything else? We've added components. Oh, it looked like it was attached to me. We were just falling. That was like a physics experiment. If you're a physics teacher or wannabe, you could use Unity to show how things, irrespective of, well, as long as you take away air resistance, things drop at the same rate, irrespective of their mass. Although I think we weigh the same actually. So there we go. We've definitely got a capsule with a rigid body now. I'm just badly driving towards it. Yes, so we can interact with it. We've given birth to this, our baby there, without it being dragged and dropped into the scene. We've actually birthed it through code, which is a beautiful thing. I'm clicking on random things. So just a few lines to do that. So now, obviously, we need to create 1,000 of them. What else do I really want to do? Have I got a minute left? Okay, let's just create 1,000 of them. And that'll have to do. And then I want to make a second video about this. If you see this before I make the next video, please in the comments just suggest what other things you want to do from the code that at the moment you can't do. and it's bugging you. So let's make a for loop for int I equals 0 while I is less than 1000, 1001. Let's live our lives. I++ opens wiggly bracket, square bracket. There it is. And they're all going to appear in the same place. We don't want that. They're all going to appear and then kind of explode. Okay, let them explode. Solid objects, was it Leibniz who said that? Or Kant or someone? They can't occupy the same space and time. Else things, whoa. Whoa. Else they become a giant. Did you see the giant? I shouldn't say this. If you're watching this before 9 PM and are too young, you shouldn't say. They became a giant pink sausage and then they exploded. But there you go. Thank you very much for arigato. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you want to do something else. Here's that horrible sound. That's horrible. Thank you. Goodbye.